Segment Sheva, Nikud Shalosh, Nikud He. Vatishaver et ha'evan ha'gedolah, vayikaretu et ha'avotim. Vatishaver et ha'evan ha'gedolah, vayikaretu et ha'avotim. The explanation found here will give you the material so that you can relate a brief story from the viewpoint of objects which were manipulated or altered. Notice in the heading to this segment the two words Vatishaver and Vayikaretu. Both of these you'll recognize as Vayiktol forms. These Vayiktol forms come from the Nifal Binyan. And so at this time, let's examine how the Nifal Binyan spells the Yiktol forms and consequently the Vayiktol forms. Two primary features will catch our attention as we compare the Kal spelling with the Nifal spelling. Let's look at it for a sample from the verb karat, meaning to cut. To say they will cut in the Kal Binyan is yichratu, yichratu. To say they will be cut, which is the meaning for the Nifal Binyan, yikaratu, yikaratu. You'll notice that a kametz vowel has been added following the first radical of this shoresh, that is the kaf. This is a customary feature. In addition, that first radical will include a dagesh. Notice the dagesh in the kaf. That's the remnant of the nun belonging to the Nifal Binyan. A third feature that appears in some forms, some conjugations of the yiktol for the Nifal Binyan, has to do with a tsere following the second radical. Notice the following words, particularly the Nifal, which will be read after the Kal. Yimtza. Now the Nifal, yimatze. Notice the tsere following the tzadi, the second radical. Yishmor. And now the Nifal, yishamer. Notice the tsere following the mem. Yichrot. And now the Nifal, yikaret. Again, the tsere following the resh. A tsere appears in this syllable, that is, following the second radical, particularly when it is in a closed syllable. Consequently, the tsere will not appear in all of the yiktol conjugations. The first two features, however, that is a kametz following the first radical and a dagesh within the first radical, will appear whenever possible. Let's go to the corresponding appendix entry in order to explore some additional spelling variations. Here's the appendix entry for segment Sheva Nikud Shalosh Nikud He. Here we'll explore the matter of the Nifal Binyan in the yiktol conjugation when the shoresh of the Binyan involves some weak consonants. To begin with, gutturals such as aleph or ayin as the first radical. The first radical of amar is aleph. Let's see now how it behaves in the yiktol conjugation as a Nifal Binyan. We're watching in particular for the tsere as the vowel following the first consonant, that is in the prefix syllable. E'amer, e'amer, te'amer, te'amer, te'amri, te'amri, ye'amer, ye'amer, te'amer, te'amer, ne'amer, ne'amer, te'amru, te'amru, te'amarna, te'amarna, ye'amru, ye'amru, te'amarna, te'amarna. And now the verb asa, whose first radical is the guttural ayin. Incidentally, it's also a third yod-he verb. Owing to the initial guttural ayin, notice the tsere in the prefix syllable just as we saw with amar. E'aseh, e'aseh, te'aseh, te'aseh, te'asi, te'asi, ye'aseh, ye'aseh, te'aseh, te'aseh, ne'aseh, Ne'aseh, te'asu, te'asu, te'asena, te'asena, ye'asu, ye'asu, te'asena, te'asena. Please read the paragraph following these two tables in order to detect how the third yod-hey has affected the spelling in the case of asa. What if the first radical letter is an yod? If a yod begins the shoresh, we find in the nifal that this consonant becomes a vav. So let's read through yada, ivada, ivada, tivada, tivada, tivad'i, tivad'i, yivada, yivada, tivada, tivada, nivada, nivada, tivad'u, tivad'u, tivadatna, tivadatna, yivad'u, yivad'u, tivadatna, tivadatna. When the third radical is an ayin, we find this letter ayin will tend to attract a patach vowel. This is illustrated both in yada, that we just read, and will be illustrated in shama, which comes next. Eshama, eshama, tishama, tishama, tisham'i, tisham'i, yishama, yishama, tishama, tishama, nishama, nishama, tisham'u, tisham'u, tishamatna, tishamatna, yisham'u, yisham'u, tishamatna, tishamatna. Segment Sheva, Nikud Shalosh, Nikud Vav, snapshot of sample nifal verbs. Now in the yiktol conjugation. As with the katal, we'll be introducing 3 different verbs, shamar, lacham, and shava. First, shamar. As you read these over, watch for the telltale signs. That is, following the first radical, a kametz vowel. Within the first radical, a dagesh. And when the syllable following the second radical is closed, notice the tzere. Eshamer, eshamer, tishamer, tishamer, tishamri, tishamri, yishamer, yishamer, tishamer, tishamer, nishamer, nishamer, tishamru, tishamru, tishamarna, tishamarna, yishamru, yishamru, tishamarna, tishamarna. Now for lacham, elachem, elachem, tilachem, tilachem, tilachami, tilachami, yilachem, yilachem, tilachem, tilachem, nilachem, nilachem, tilachamu, tilachamu, tilachamna, tilachamna, yilachem, yilachem, tilachamna, tilachamna. And finally for shava. Eshava, eshava, tishava, tishava, tishav'i, tishav'i, yishava, yishava, tishava, tishava, nishava, nishava, tishav'u, tishav'u, tishavatna, tishavatna, yishav'u, yishav'u, tishavatna, tishavatna.